If she were to go and buy it from those designers, it would have costed her about 11.5 lakhs.
Easy.
She rented all three with us for about 1.5 lakhs.
A large part of this renting for your wedding comes also from insecurity, I would say.
I disagree a little bit. We have brides saying, you know, I'm getting married in November. I'm going to buy this designer outfit. If I want to sell it off on your website, how does it? Our client feedback became our source of strategy.
ऐसा कभी हुआ है that someone tried giving you a fake and then you guys recognize?
Yeah. Perspective is something that's always hounded a lot of Indians, right? कि वो क्या बोलेंगे, ये क्या बोलेंगे, वो क्या सोचेंगे.
If someone wants to start today and compete with Kuro, what are the 3 things they need to get sorted?
Just because it's pre-owned or rented doesn't mean it's not good.
Hello and welcome back to another episode by Just Because. Today we have Anaisha with us from Kuro. At Kuro, you can buy and sell pre-loved luxury and rent Indian couture. So let's just get straight into it. Hi Anaisha, how are you?
Hi Muskan, thank you so much for having me, and I'm really glad to be here, and I'm really glad to be sitting across you because we've chatted so much on the phone, and I feel like it's going to come very effortlessly, to be honest.
That's the perfect way. So tell me, Raisha, how did you went on like, okay, I want to rent Indian couture? What was the decision making factor?
So there were two mainly. There was a time where there were too many weddings coming up. We were at an age where, you know how it works. So 4 to 5 weddings. You start planning your outfits. You have 2 to 3 outfits per wedding. One you will reuse, etc. You'll try to find something from your closet. But newness is something we are always looking forward to. You know, most of the times. Did the math in my head. It was adding up to a big number, and I just felt that it would just make sense if I had a platform where I could borrow or lend or whatever you want to call it, take it from my friends or etc, anything like that. And then I was like, it's making sense, why not? Second reason was, I'm sure you probably had a wedding in your house and you see the outfits get shifted from one storage to the other to the other, and then the attic, and then you never see it again, and then you take it out after say 10 years and you're like, okay, now what do I do about this? You want to remodel it or something. So these two reasons led to the ideation of Kuro, and then we did a little bit of number crunching.
Which year was that?
2021,
Hmm.
about 3.5 years ago, and I just honestly believe profits are a spinal cord of a business. So numbers should match up. The proper Jain Marwadi mentality that whatever you do, whatever is coming in should be greater than what's going out. See, at the end of the day, if you have exposure, you understand, okay, repeating is great, but a lot of people like to do it for Instagram. A lot of people, as a personality, they don't want to repeat, right? So there are many versions of human beings. Now we can't pinpoint of what is right, what is wrong. It's just the way they are. Keeping all this in mind, I'm a very big believer of customer psychology. So I felt that if only it is a wise decision, as you said, it's creating a product category. It's a disruptor.
Yeah.
Added pre-loved clothing, which is nothing but vintage, thrifted, pre-owned. You call it pre-loved. 2, 3 years down the line. So now we have we have three proper verticals, which is rent, shop pre-loved, sell luxury. So yeah, and then rest has just been the way it's been.
Started with all 3 together, or you started with just renting?
We started with purely renting, and we had a lot of people come up to us and say, we don't want to rent out our outfit, we want to sell it off.
Okay.
And we kept turning them away. Right? We're like, nay, we only rent. If you want to rent your outfit, you rent it with us. It's a revenue share. Like today, if you have a lehenga, which is designer, and you come to us and say, I want to rent it, we'll price it at 13% of the MRP, and the rent will be shared between both of us at a given percentage. So a lot of people are like, how will we keep track, etc. A lot of people trusted us, but a lot of people had this question, which is valid. So we didn't want to turn it away. Our client feedback became our source of strategy. A lot. So then we started testing it out on our website. We put out a few people, like we put out a lot of outfits for sale. We did the price work. We said, it needs to be reduced. We have a make an offer on our website. So if an item is listed for 1 lakh, say a ex designer's outfit is for 1,89,000 MRP, it is listed on the website for 1,10,000. When you scroll down on the product page, it has an option called make an offer. you can make an offer and put in your offer, say, I want it for 80,000.
So like you can bid.
Yeah, we do the negotiations with the seller and the buyer. Something that works out for three of us. We charge a commission if your old outfit is sold. And for the client, it's great because they're getting a designer at a great discount and they're being sustainable. Right? So, and then the third one is selling. So you can list your bags, accessories, clothes, Indian couture, anything. And the form comes to us. We look at it. We upload it on the website. We let you know if it's sold. We charge a 25% commission.
So, Anisha, this is a very challenging category because we come from India, and in India, there's I won't say a taboo, but it's a culture that, brides are supposed to wear few things from head to toe, and just the thought of it, like wearing a rented outfit, won't go with majority of the brides today. What mindset shift is now coming that brides are opting for this?
So, yeah, you're absolutely right. The reason, we talk about it more is we want to amplify the advantages. It's only wise. It literally makes so much sense when you rent or shop pre-love. We had a client, so, let's talk like real life
Yeah, I love it.
So we had a client, she rented 3 outfits from us, Mehendi, Sangeet, wedding. If she were to go and buy it from those designers, it would have costed her about 11.5 lakhs. Easily. Okay, 3 outfits. Now you choose whichever A-list designer you see, you make this thing, it will be a couple of double-digit lakhs for sure. That's the benchmark these days. She rented all 3 with us for about 1.5 lakhs. Right? Okay, she saved money, great. Saved closet space, great. Now, what you can do with that money as a bride? Invest it, travel, buy yourself something that you'll probably use on a daily basis. Gift someone something, or you can invest it in mutual funds. I mean, I'm no one to suggest if gold is the right time to buy right now, but if she had bought gold back then, she would have made a good amount of money, right? So I feel like um, this discussion that we have, this amplification that we do, this awareness that we generate around rental and pre-loved clothing should help it become more normal. Why should you shy away from saving money? Why should you be embarrassed to save money? Just because other people are talking, like, I don't see that as a valid reason. Perspective is something that is that's always hounded a lot of Indians, right? कि वो क्या बोलेंगे, ये क्या बोलेंगे, वो क्या सोचेंगे. But have you ever thought how you will feel if you save that much money and invested it, or if you didn't have a closet full of clothes just lying in storage? But cost per wear for Indian outfits is very less. This t-shirt, that jacket, you still wear very often, but with Indian wear it once, twice, thrice at max. Something for lakhs, your cost per wear, you're only wearing it 3 times, your cost per wear is very high. It doesn't come down to rupees, it's thousands and lakhs.
Yeah, if you're getting a lehenga for 50,000, you're wearing it twice. So it's 25,000 per wear.
Per wear. Have that lehenga listed on Kuro. Have someone else give it a new life. In 70K, you get a return ticket to Europe. In 30K, you get a return ticket to Dubai.
I think you should make this your strategy. That if you save this much, this is what you can do.
That is true. You're right. You're so right. But you tell me, like today, if you love a lehenga.
Okay.
It is for 10 lakhs. Put yourself in that position. And you see it on Kuro for 1 lakh to rent. Not even 1 lakh. Chalo, let's not go this thing. So you see it on Kuro for 50, 60K to rent. Wouldn't you think of
course, I would.
A lot of NRI brides come to us. They actually are going to wear it once.
I think NRIs are a big chunk of your clients.
Yeah. NRIs are a big chunk. We have recently started seeing a lot of Indian brides as well. Like before, we used to think, oh, bridesmaids is our target audience, because maybe brides don't want to do it. But actually, most of our orders come from brides.
Give me a breakdown, like how much is NRIs, how much is brides, and how much are stylists or creators? Like, what is the breakdown percentage?
So NRIs, if they're getting married in India, they can rent. Pre-love, we ship worldwide. So anywhere in the world you are and you like a Sabyasachi or a Manish Malhotra or a Seema Gujral lehenga or a Prada bag or a Chanel bag that is for 30-40% off, we will ship it to you. Rental we only do in India at the moment. I would say about 60% would be Indian brides. 30% would be NRI brides because the logistics of someone living in the US getting married in India is not that easy, and planning a wedding is a task. And then 10% would be makeup artists, jewelry brands, stylists, people who are sourcing for photo shoots, photographers, videographers. So that is kind of the split right now. Right. Yeah.
I saw this very interesting thing on your website that you give this dry cleaning service complimentary. What is the insight that led you to it? Because as you said, you are a very consumer psychology focused person.
So honestly, I think of it in a way that you need to do everything and you need to meet your client where they are, right? So what are the first doubts in your head? Okay, if I ask you, Muskan, you need to rent an outfit. What are your first three questions?
It should look like new.
It should look like new. It should be clean. It should be altered to your fit. It should reach you on time. Right.
Yeah.
That led us to this complimentary. Like dry cleaning is obviously we don't charge extra. It's included in the rental cost. People feel it's been, the thing that okay, it's been gone on so many orders. We don't want clients to have that question. We want to solve that problem before they ask. Right? Will it be dry cleaning? Yes, it's dry cleaned. It was from get go. It was our strategy. It wasn't like something that we introduced later. But from get go, it was like rent an outfit, dry cleaned, altered to your side, delivered to your doorstep. Pre-love, save up to 60% on design. Like those are the things we promote.
Yeah. And how do you make sure that supposedly if I'm giving a designer outfit of mine on your website for renting, then how can I make sure that if it will reach to me in the perfect condition?
So we charge a security deposit
Okay.
to clients, right? So the security deposit is very high. That cancels out a lot of possibility of it getting damaged brutally. We have a team of proper karigars, master G. So embellishment coming out, threads coming out, we fix it in-house. We have all the material. We source those materials and all from everywhere, sometimes from the designer as well. And we give it back to you in perfect condition whenever you want it back. For us, if your outfit tomorrow gets damaged, we can't rent it out. We'll have to compensate you. And plus we're losing out on clients.
Yeah. Then the word of mouth also goes so fast that I give them something.
Exactly.
Our feel.
So pre-loved again, fairly simple. Bags and accessories also fairly simple. Authentication is a very big factor, which we work with a lot of third-party authenticators. That would also be a question key. Oh, if I'm buying something, is it authentic? Indian wear, fairly simple to authenticate by the weight, by the work, by the packaging. You can tell by the cut of the blouse, the silhouette. And Indian wear is not so widely replicated, to be honest.
You can see it if it's a copy or not. You can see it.
If you're in the industry, you go to those designer stores every now and then, you touch, feel, you see. So Indian wear, you kind of know. It's, with the international brands, it gets a little tricky, but we've set a vertical where we authenticate through third-party authenticators, and everything is sent to them, like the detailed images of the spacing between the letters, and the smell of the leather makes a very big difference. The packaging, the serial number, the heat stamp. So they study it all and they give us a report, and this is an industry norm. Like all the A-list leading companies in the US, India, they all use it.
ऐसा कभी हुआ है that someone tried giving you a fake and then you guys recognize?
Yeah. We have a lot of people trying to pass a lot of clothes as fake, but when you ask the questions and they don't have answers, in the conversation only it's fake.
Yeah.
Right? And then they say ki nahi, it looks alike and stuff. So we say share a conversation with share the bill, share a conversation, give us a proof of payment, etc. So they also know if we are being extra nosy, then you can't push it off so easy. You can't pull it off this thing. But when you get it to the studio, we can definitely spot one. Yeah. I'm also very vivid window shopper.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, touching and feeling, and even the team, we always promote. I'm like, go see what's happening, what's trending. Go to all the stores, see what's going on, be in the know. If you're in the industry, you should have a lot of knowledge about it.
How much can someone, supposedly if I rent 3 garments today, rent 3 garments today on Kuro, how can I make like a monthly tentative?
So for rental, we only take designer outfits from people. Because if in a revenue share we are making very less, there's no point of us to do that much hard work, right? We would rather find a non-designer piece somewhere and stock it ourselves. So if you're giving a designer outfit, say which is for 1.5 lakhs, the rent will be around 15 to 17,000, and you get 40% of it. So if it is something that is wanted by people and it is something that people are looking to rent very often, then you can easily make about, I think if it's rented twice or thrice a month, that would be about 6K into 3. So around 18K a month you can make if it is a piece that is being wanted by the clients a lot, or much more. Like this is, I'm giving you a ballpark figure of something that's for 1.5 lakh or something that's for 4 lakhs, 3 lakhs, 7 lakhs, 50K, whatever. But this is the share. And trends also change very often, right? So that's why designer pieces, we don't want to stock up too much and rent it. Pre-loved is very fairly simple. We just list everything on our website and we negotiate and we hopefully try to sell it off.
Are you planning to get into like luxury Western wear also?
Uh, I mean, we have the platform, so it's just like a click away for us. It's what you put out with full faith and 100% is what people see.
Yeah.
Like if we promote rental, then that's something that people ask us for. We start promoting pre-loved luxury bags and all, then we start getting inquiries on.
I think a large part of this renting for your wedding is comes also from insecurity, I would say. That supposedly if I can't afford a 10 lakh rupee lehenga, but I want people to see that I wore a Sabyasachi or a Manish Malhotra for my wedding, then it's insecurity.
So I feel like, I mean, I disagree a little bit. It's not all about insecurity. Money is also a very big factor. Yeah, today you want to wear a brand and you want to show it. Not a lot of people are like that. Now, if we're talking and we're being brutally honest, right? Like, a lot of people come from the fact that, again, reiterating the first reason that I said, that it just makes sense saving 4 lakhs or 3 lakhs or 10 lakhs. And the added advantage is that you get to wear a designer outfit, right? So your insecurity is probably being filled by the added advantage, but the primary focus here is definitely it being affordable and pocket friendly. Sustainability is a great thing, but if I'm being again very honest, it's not taken too seriously. It's not a selling factor. You know, like if I tell you, Muskan, it is sustainable, you'd prefer the easy on the pocket bit more than the sustainable bit. But we are seeing a lot of change in that aspect.
Someone told me that in India, being just sustainable is not enough.
It's not enough. No, you need to give the clients a lot. Just sustainability, it's very difficult to gauge. Like you say, slow fashion, ethically sourced. No one is going into your supply chain and seeing it. When I see kids these days and I meet like little kids, and it's very interesting because one day a little child was like, "Oh, I can't go to that country. It is the most polluted country in the world." And I was like, "We never thought like this. But I see a change, and it's going to take a generation or two gap, but we are getting there. A lot of brides say, it just makes sense. It is sustainable, it is affordable, and I'm getting to wear a label that I.
Bollywood has a major
Yeah.
to play
Sure.
because people were really influenced by Dia Mirza's wedding. So when once people in power do those things, people look up to them. The top of the pyramid starts doing that, starts talking about it, it will trickle down.
Yeah, and so rightly put. Because the more they talk about it, the more normal it gets. Like they say ki we rent it all the time. We shop vintage. You see in all these Met galas or events, like you say, oh, she's wearing a vintage, this designer, which is nothing but pre-love, which is nothing but pre-owned or pre-designed or pre-worn or thrifted. Thrifted is still for like lower value items, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong. but when they say it, it just gets amplified a little bit more and you get validation.
I think that the Gen Zs are getting more detached in terms of legacy or in terms of heirlooms when they are going to this, because this factor also comes in, that if you're renting an outfit, then then you're missing out on that heirloom thing. So what are your thoughts on that?
So the way I see it is, I feel like Gen Z is a little bit more closer to heirloom pieces than millennials were. A, because Gen Zs are more exposed. Indian fashion has taken over the globe by, a massive storm. Like you see, like Indian designers are making their name in all these international events. So the exposure and the amplification of that exposure is very high. So, you see someone, I see so many budding entrepreneurs who are from the US or from Paris and are Jaipur, they source Jaipur rugs, they take it back. So I feel like Gen Zs are a little more closer to the heirloom pieces than millennials were. I feel like the only thing stopping is the silhouettes. But when you are knowledgeable and mature enough to know the intricate detail of handwork and what went into it, is when you feel more attached. No one knows the stories of those heirloom pieces. We resonated with our how our parents got married, or the time and the way they got married, and they didn't know each other. So like whatever you want to do is always resonated with a story, or the or the idea behind it, right? The idea behind it is, no one told us ki, oh, karigars have like now also they sit down, but the quality of work and the intricacy of detail, that exposure is not there, right? For Gen Zs or millennials, or for me also to understand. I'd probably look at it, or would you look at your mom's lehenga and say that, do you know what work it is?
For your own wedding, did you get these questions that did you like rent, resell? Because I assume.
But I got a lot of questions, but the way I approached it was, um, instead of me renting, I would like to take this opportunity, and when I'm getting something, I will get it in a way that I can rent it out on Kuro. Like I stand by that stance that I will be putting out my entire wedding wardrobe on Kuro for other people to rent. Or if I want to sell something off, also, I'm definitely going to do it.
Are you planning to get into like luxury Western wear also?
Uh, I mean, we have the platform, so it's just like a click away for us. Well, it's what you put out with full faith and 100% is what people see.
Yeah.
Like if we promote rental, then that's something that people ask us for. We start promoting pre-loved luxury bags and all, then we start getting inquiries on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people know Kuro for renting majorly, because I was telling one and two friends of mine that I was recording with Kuro's founder, and they were like, "Acha, that rent one."
Ah, yeah, so I mean, we want to, but actually, pre-loved is become a very big chunk of our business. We're known for rentals, but pre-loved is catching up, and in non-season time does much better.
Where's the maximum money you are getting right now? Like, give me the division of this as well.
So, right, so rental is very seasonal, right? Indian couture rental, or
Like, it starts from later year.
yeah, later of the year, but now weddings have become so non-seasonal because
Now it's happening in July also.
it's happening in July. It's like any good date, whatever, it's good for us. Pre-loved is throughout the year. Pre-loved luxury is throughout the year because it is associated with ownership. Rental does equal to pre-loved during season time. So both give us the same amount. In non-season time, pre-loved does much better. We focus on pre-loved luxury in non-season time. The way pre-loved can give you volumes. You don't need to own the stock. You don't need to stock the stock. You don't need to invest too much. So you can get your volumes from pre-loved luxury. Like that's what we are aiming to do. Rental, we can't go on and rent one outfit on the same day for 20 times. Today, if we spend, say, 1 lakh on ads in a month, okay, I'm talking about rental. Clothing rental. We spend 1 lakh on ads. Okay, it reaches 100,000, 200, 300,000, or 10 lakh people. We get people, half of them come on the website, leave. Half of that come to us on WhatsApp, inquire, say now 100 brides are serious, right? They all like that one lehenga our ads, our costs, like the ROAS have gone for waste, right? Because now we can't provide to them. You come to us and you like that one red lehenga.
That is trending right now.
That is trending. Now Indian weddings are a way that wo Shubh Din is
हाँ.
only those few dates. Now we can't go and give it to every bride. But with pre-love it's different, right? We can we can spend 1 lakh on ads, and we can we can work on those volumes also. But we have so many clients who ask us, I'm looking to buy this outfit. Will you guys rent it later? Yeah, seriously, we have brides saying, I'm getting married in November. I'm going to buy this designer outfit. If I want to sell it off on your website, how does it work? They are planning it like that. It's becoming more of a I wouldn't say investment, but some sort of a money making
Yeah.
tool for a lot of people than just traditional expense in your life.
But it shows that how smarter people getting.
Yeah, 100. And we are so happy.
Coming back to how you said that एक ही लहंगा सारी brides को चाहिए होता है, you can't do that. So how much does social media virality affect your business?
A lot, actually. As in, you're saying how much Instagram helps us?
As in both POVs, in terms ki supposedly Sabyasachi ka funnel lehenga is trending. Like some big face wore it, and then you guys by chance have it for rent. So like 100 brides would want that one lehenga.
100%. Only one gets lucky.
So like how much have you seen in past experiences may that some lehenga or some outfit is trending and the people are going mad over it?
The corset trend, it was like we have to keep up with trends, right? We are in that business, at least when it comes to the rental fashion. We got one or two on our website, and that was the only thing that was getting rented. An outfit that has a celebrity's picture worn in it, that outfit gets rented a lot.
Yeah, so can you put like celebrity pictures on your website too? Is it allowed?
Social media.
Okay.
We put on our social media.
If someone wants to start today and compete with Kuro, what are the 3 things they need to get sorted?
Logistics for sure. Are they competing with rental or pre-love luxury?
Renting.
Okay, if they're competing with renting, logistics for sure. Um, Trust, something that you need to build with your audience. Yeah, these 2 things, I think.
And the third one?
Third one is, I think it's with everyone, but you need to have the right pieces. When it comes to rental fashion, you need to be on top of what is changing in the fashion industry.
You have to be totally be up to the trend.
Yeah. Because if you have a collection that no one is renting, then
Yeah, I think that's our human nature. Supposedly, if I go to Pura today, and if I'm willing to rent a lehenga, and if I don't find something for my taste, then I won't come. And supposedly, if I want to rent a lehenga, even after 3 months, then I'll have it in my mind कि उनके पास तब भी मेरे taste का नहीं था, अब भी नहीं होगा. So people don't give second chances in this place.
Very cutthroat. Every industry, I feel like in this day and age with social media is very cutthroat. Like your first experience matters a lot.
I was reading that Hermes, you were telling me that you are trying to source Hermes bags for the pre-loved category, and I was reading that Hermes bags are better investment than gold.
No, I mean,
Yeah, so why are Birkins and Kelly are such a what is the math behind? Explain.
so it's just it's so difficult to get. And something that is so difficult to get is something that you want. But some people who want to wear a bag and who want to spend that much, they want exclusivity. They don't want anyone and everyone to always have it, right? Otherwise, what is the point of paying so much for something, right? And I feel because of that, it's very difficult to buy that bag. And because it is very difficult, you want it more, right? And because you want it more and it's difficult to buy, it gets sold on a much higher rate the minute the bag leaves the store.
Plus, it's a very, very, very big status symbol.
So I feel like because of that reason, it is it's always difficult to buy, and it does very well in the second-hand market. So, today if someone sources an Hermes bag and they come to us to sell it, it will be priced more than what it is worth from the store. So it works really well for resellers.
So, where do you get your business from? Like, as you mentioned, you're available offline as well. You run ads also. Then there's Instagram following also. So, like, what is the percentage divide of each?
So, pre-love luxury, a lot of US orders, international. So US, UK, Dubai, Australia, um, and India as well.
Website ads.
Webs through ads and Instagram, through social media. Influencer marketing we only do around a certain time of the year. So from that we get a lot of awareness, and they might come and convert through that also. Not saying no, but mostly it's social media, performance marketing, WhatsApp marketing, very important. I think it's really underrated. Email marketing is very underrated. And if you want like a geographic bifurcation, then pre-love luxury is, a lot of orders come from the international. A lot of international orders come to us: US, UK, Canada, Dubai, Australia, few. Rental, Delhi, Bombay, Hyderabad, um, Ahmedabad, and then one off we get very interesting orders from, like tier 3, tier 4 cities.
Yeah, it's giving them access.
Yeah, exactly. So, Patna, and a lot of other smaller towns. I'm not able to recollect on top of my mind, but Gandhinagar and these kind of towns, we get, few orders, but it just makes us happy.
And how is the store going? It's in Hyderabad.
So we have two studios, Delhi and Hyderabad. Hyderabad because from Hyderabad, and Delhi, I'm shuffling between Hyderabad and Delhi. Delhi walk-ins are very strong.
Where do you have it in Delhi?
Currently Lado Sarai,
Okay.
shifting soon. Those details will be up. But it's not a store, it's like a warehouse.
Yeah. Is performance marketing working for you?
Yeah, so I feel like um we run many different ads, not just like one, and we run different ads during different times of the year, targeted to the occasion around it. You have 5 pillars of marketing, which is social media, performance marketing, influencer marketing, WhatsApp marketing, email marketing. So these are the main. Then you have your unconventional and sensory marketing. Okay, this once you perfect these, then you should go to that. Uh, Now if I feel, now suppose on Instagram a reel is doing really well, right? So someone sees the reels, comes on our page, clicks on the website. Because they've clicked on the website, they are retargeted the ad. So both are helping. I feel like it goes hand. All of these things go hand in hand. So it's very difficult to say which one is working more. You have to do all with 100% of your potential. Then if your ad is doing really well, they come to your page.
The page is not good, then they'll drop off.
Exactly. But suppose you're doing everything right. Okay. Today, say in a scenario you're running ads, you're consistent with your content, you're putting good quality content out, you're doing your WhatsApp marketing, you're doing your email marketing, and your branding is set. Then they will see the ad, they will come on your page, they will see the reel views will go up, and they'll go on your website, then they'll be retargeted the ad. Then they'll come to you on WhatsApp. So that's a closer level. Like they're closer to you on WhatsApp. Email marketing, again, we didn't give it too much importance, but then we realized that we need to do everything. At a point where like Pinterest bhi karna hai. We have to do Pinterest also. So everything adds to it. There are days where if we feel like we're not doing too much on social media and we're only spending on ads, it will not give you that much benefit. You are doing amazingly well on social media, and not doing ads can work. That's brand building. Right? So awareness. You are doing your organic reach, which I feel can work.
I suggest everyone to not be like highly dependent on performance.
Yeah, for sure.
Not sustainable.
Yeah, and even content creators, I got a very nice advice from a founder that I was talking. So she said that don't spread yourself too thin.
As in,
That don't go to the best creators who will post one story for you, and you will just be like a part of their bigger picture, and after that one day or one post you're not there. Go deeper. Regional and whatever, make your brand become a lifestyle of someone, and they post it very often. right? That so I really liked what she said. So take a not micro but like a medium size creator who incorporates pre-loved luxury and renting, not on a daily basis. Bags and also you can we can have them promote on a daily basis, but I'm have so many weddings, and actually she's taking an outfit from Pura at every wedding rather than a big influencer just saying it once.
Yeah, like who is very sticky on the deliverables, who makes it like it has to look organic.
It has to look organic.
What has been the biggest breakthrough for Kuro right now, like till now?
So there's one thing I always believed in. The day someone who can afford any amount of outfits comes to us and shops pre-loved or rents an outfit or shops a bag, pre-loved bag, is the day I feel like okay, we have done something, because they don't have any need to do it. They are doing it out of a thought, and that is that one thought we want a lot, most of the households to have in India, like kuro it. कि क्या पहनना है हम kuro कर लेंगे, like क्या करना है we'll kuro it. We in kuro it can be anything.
What does Kuro mean?
So kuro zeto in Japanese means endless closet. So
Uh,
we are your endless closet. You can just come to us open and you'll have an option of more than 1,000 to 1,000 pieces. So I felt like that in recent times has felt like it stuck. That news that the team gave me, it stayed with me.
how many outfits have you rented and sold till now?
Collectively 4,000 plus. Collectively 4,000 plus. Now bifurcation depends, because pre-love we started only 2 years ago. Till we've been doing for the rest of the time. So yeah, bags we've sold one or two bags and belts
Yeah.
now. So anything I feel like a strategy you implement in life or in your business, you have to stay consistent to see the results. Like it's not like I shouldn't feel disheartened कि मैंने अभी start किया and nothing is happening. You also know it takes some time to build on these things. It took us a year to get consistent pre-loved orders. I think same will be with bags and accessories. Rental also, it took us time to establish a benchmark standard. Okay, these many number of orders is necessary. इतने तो होंगे ही, sort of a thing. So everything takes time, and I think consistency in any disruptive business is key.
Yeah.
With a revenue model. Otherwise, you're just burning money.
Yeah. Coming to my next question, it's not very related to Kuro or the discussion we are talking, but what is the one thing you believe very deeply related to business or life that most people disagree with?
Yeah, so I feel like I'll start off with life. I have many of these beliefs. You can do a different podcast for it. But you know how everyone is like, don't be negative. Always think positive and, think good things, which is great. You need to be a realist and you need to be logical. I feel like you have to think of what is the worst that can happen. You need to have a plan B in life. It can be with anything. It's great to manifest, it's great to be positive, but logical and being realistic is very important. Be self-aware. This is the worst thing that can happen with me, and this is my plan B, and I'm prepared for it. कि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या होगा? My parents always ingrained this in us. They were like, okay, नहीं तो what is the worst that can happen to you? You should think about it. It's not like, oh, you shouldn't think about these things. I feel like that's very important.
It's the same for me, and even the last episode only, I talked about it as well.
It's not unpopular for us.
Yeah, it's popular opinion for us, but even like when I was planning this whole thing, I thought ki worst case scenario kya aega? Like worst doesn't look that bad.
Yeah, exactly. And most of the times it doesn't. I think it's just so made up in your own head. It's the reality and your thoughts. Sometimes you make your thoughts your reality.
Okay, Aisha, I think I got everything I wanted from this conversation. I just have one last question. We do this for every guest. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Um, Okay, so I feel like the best piece of advice that I have received is don't wait for it to be perfect in terms of what you're starting out. If you feel like, if you trust your gut and instinct, and if you've done a good research and if you've done everything right, you have to go for it in life. Don't wait around thinking about it too much ever. Even if you want to have a conversation with someone, also, no, just have it. Don't think about it too much. If you want to start something and you think it's making sense, and um, worst case scenario, just go for it. I mean, it's very basic, but you actually feel it when you actually feel it when
When you're in that spot.
you're in that spot.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
It's a school for thought.
Yeah.
And I'd like to wrap up this conversation. And thank you so much for giving us your time today. And I hope you get Hermes website soon.
So that you can shop. But no, in all honesty, thank you so much for doing this. It's a great platform for founders to come and put their pour their thoughts out, which we don't usually do on other platforms. And sometimes we are shy, or sometimes we're just again thinking too much about this, and uh, coming here on a platform like this, talking about what we actually believe in as a founder, talking about our brand, because I feel like a founder can really say the best things and be the best marketer for your brand. And we don't get a platform for these kind of things, to be very honest. So I think this podcast honestly gave me a very good feeling when I came, and I shared so much with you, and we had a good chat. More than anything, knowing you out of the podcast scene also was a great feeling. But so yeah, thank you
So
so
much.
much. Thank you so much.
And see you guys next week.